Let's see, Radio Shack microphone. As you can see, it just disintegrated. Not only the, we have two screws there. Take apart the handset, and we have two very small Phillips screws here. Take apart the 7-pin DIN plug. These are numbered. And we also need to pay attention on this end because there's a small circuit cord in here that is soldered to a connector. Just pay attention to those colors and we'll be good to go. I'll draw a diagram to show those wires, the color, which pin number on the DIN plug goes to the circuit board in the handset. The replacement cable is this OPEC model MC8-6, and as you can see, it's made in Taiwan. But several other YouTubers have used this product and recommend it. It's about the correct diameter. Cable size is important when securing it to the DIN plug. The diameter is approximately the same as the original. Also here, and also in the handset, it's the approximate size. It may be a little tough getting it through this flexible housing, this strain relief. I will probably drill that out a little bit. We'll see how that works. All right, but this is a good sturdy cable and hopefully will not disintegrate like this original. It was a manufacturer defect apparently. All right, well, let's get started. Alright, so first thing I want to do is I'm going to take a look at the connectors here on the DIN plug. I forgot to bring it, but if you have any old hard drives, be sure to save the magnets. You can tape those to the bottom of a small plastic container, and they're great for keeping control of small metal parts. Right now I'll just set these over to the side. Let's take a look here. I also have it's a Phillips. It's basically a screw that secures this the plastic part of the DIN plug. So I'll need to take that off. Pretty small, so be careful, don't strip it and don't lose it. Oh, there we go. That's got it. And then just push that through. And You'll note this is pretty small wiring, but I'm not going to disturb that until I record the color and pin number for each connector. Taking off the back of the microphone. These tips are magnetic too, which is very helpful. Be careful, we've got two buttons on top and the release to listen button on the side. Let's just carefully pry that back shell off. Set the back shell off to the side, and here's our input, the bottom of the microphone. You see these wires are soldered directly to the circuit board, which makes it a little bit more of a challenge. So we have to make sure we clean up these connections. But I'll make note of the colors going to the circuit board before I desolder those connections. Let's see if we can find any numbering on here. I have to use a magnifying glass. I don't see anything, but we can always number these any way we like, but I thought I'd just check just to make sure. Let's go ahead and remove this protective rubber, silicone rubber release to listen, and these little up and down buttons. Just take note that the down button is on the left. This is looking from the back of the mic, and the up button is on the right. So just be careful of those when you take those out. And with the spring, let's set those to the side. The circuit board looks like it's held in with looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 small phillips. So we'll go ahead and remove those. Let's see. Let's just give it a little bit of help here. Again, just be cautious of the microphone. And it appears there's a screwdriver. There we go. Alright. And we have the DTMF pad. There's also a button, the DTMF on off, which is on the front. Just be careful, that may fall off. Alright, so okay, so just quickly I drew out the layout first. Looking at the DIN plug from the face of the DIN plug, going around clockwise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is in the middle. And at the bottom, this is looking at the PCB in the microphone on the component side where the wires are soldered. Yours may be slightly different, but again, this is just for reference. I numbered them left to right, 1 through 8, and recorded the color of the wire that is connected to each. This is purely for reference for the current color of wires in this cable. It may be a little different for the replacement cable that you buy. Just note that pin 1, which is white, goes to pin 7. So you would just note that and put 1 to 7. And I'll do that here. I'll just make a tablet or a table that shows pins 1 through 8 from the DIN and 1 through 8 on the mic, indicating which corresponding number. Be right back. Okay, so this is probably makes more sense just to note the DIN and the microphone. So this is the pin number. You might want to just take and make a snapshot of this and write it down. DIN pin number 1 through 8 and its corresponding connection. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is desolder the wires from the circuit board. I'm not going to worry about preserving any of this cable, so I'm just going to cut them off right at the tensioner. And I want to preserve this tensioner. My thinking is, looking at the new cable, on this OPEC cable, there's just a bare wire that has a tinned in. All of them are tinned, by the way, which I think is a bonus. Saves you a little bit of work on both sides. The shield, however, is just a bare stranded copper wire. Be sure to save that piece of where it went. Here it is. I'm going to save this piece of insulation that went around the shields, and we can reuse that on this one. DIN housing makes a secure connection, so I'm just going to cut this right here next to the casing. And there is a insulation. It's a piece of plastic that goes around all of the connectors. We'll lose that. It's probably a large piece of shrink tubing. I may have something at that diameter. I'll double check, but you can just simply use some electrical tape. This is PVC electrical tape. Just old black electrical tape will be fine. But I'll see if I have the shrink tubing so I can at least cut the same width. Just makes it look a little bit nicer. So we'll need to remove this piece of protective plastic around the edge. And just be careful not to cut your connectors there. And there it goes. So that exposes our connectors. And we can just get on here with the solder gun. It's not solder gun, the soldering iron, and Alright, so I'm just using a little vice grip here to secure the DIN plug, and what I do is just grab the wire and apply some heats right at the front of these pins, and they pop right on out. Just don't hold it on there too long, just give a little force and it should pop right out. I'm not going to make you watch me take all these 8 pins out. Alright, so here's our connector with all the wires removed, and I don't know if you can see it. Each one of these has a little solder in it, so that'll make it easy. So once we have our ends of our new wires, we'll heat up the pin first and then insert the wire. It should hold. That saves us a little time. Alright, so on the printed circuit board, I'll just grab each wire individually and then heat up the pad. See if I can do this without ruining anything. Doesn't take much, and the wires come off. Let's try another one here. Try to leave as much solder on that soldering pad as possible, and I'll inspect it later to make sure there's no shorts between each pad. Again, I'm not going to make you watch me take all 8 of these wires off. Okay, so the wires have been removed from the connector, and inspection with the magnifying glass. I don't see any shorts between them, and I left sufficient solder on those pads that will accommodate our new wires. Alright, well, I need to address the microphone wire here too, so let me clean up that small wire and reattach that. I want to put just a little bit of solder on the end of this wire. I just stripped it back a little bit just to keep all those strands under control. And then I will solder it back to the microphone, hopefully not damaging the microphone in the process. Alright, looks pretty good. Let's have a closer look with the magnifying glass. It looks to be on there. Yes, yes, that should be good. Alright, we'll call that done. How about that? So why don't I go ahead and organize my wires so that they're in the correct order here. So we have black, blue. Get everybody in order. Black, blue, green. I'm using pink, yellow, brown, red, white, shield. So they're kind of in order. That helps us out a little bit. And we'll just start soldering left to right. The other thing we want to keep in mind is there was a little bit of a loop of the cable of the wires inside. So when we solder these on, we'll have a little extra length. So when we push the cable up into where the strain relief goes, that will give us a little extra loop in here inside the microphone housing. See if I can get the second one on here. Just heat up the solder a little bit on the pad and then put the pin in there, and that secures that. So just heat up the pad a little bit and then put the wire in there. Like I said, one at a time, and you might want to re-thread the wires here so they're not all terribly crossed. And don't forget, use that little bit of shielding. Go on the bare copper stranded wire. Keeps things from shorting out. See if I can get that threaded through here. Alright, there we go. That's helpful. Very helpful. Double check that, make sure it's secured. Yep. Alright, there we are. We'll just go through with the magnifying glass and make sure there's no shorts in between. Before we put this back into the plastic housing, just make sure when you bend up these wires for that little loop, just to make sure that none of the wires pop off. So you might want to just kind of press it in here and make sure everybody stays in place and there's no shorts. And you can do a test fit. Make sure that this is going to fit in here. Now it looks like we have ample space. I'll lay these wires over just a little bit, and everything looks like it's good. Let's take and place our microphone into the housing, taking care not to disturb these little teeny wires again. Alright, that seems to be settled in. These seem to be settled in. So we can reassemble the mic head and put the buttons on, and we'll secure the PCB and then put our buttons back, and we'll lock this one up, and then we can work on the DIN plug. Okay, the buttons are inside the bottom part of the microphone housing. I did note that when I put the back of the microphone on, it's still a little bit of a gap, so I'll have to wrap some electrical tape around here to give it a good secure connection. So let's make sure that we have enough tension on this cable when you put the screws back in so that it doesn't pull. So it looked pretty good. So we'll go with that and secure these two screws. Okay, secured those screws. This cable feels secure. Not the prettiest, but the strain relief would look better, but it'll be alright. Just check to make sure the function of the buttons. The DTMF on off. Good. Okay, so we're done with the head end of the mic. So let's work on the DIN plug side. Alright, well, first thing we need to do is make sure we put the DIN plug housing over the cable. And there's no point in trying to organize these in any particular order right now. The real key here is the lengths of these wires, because once these are soldered onto here, this housing is going to have to come up and over this. So right now, if you look at the housing, that the wires were connected here to the bottom, and well, as you can see, they're probably a bit long, so but there's enough room inside the housing to accommodate these extra lengths. So I believe what we'll do is, just because I want to maintain these tinned ends, they've done such a nice job of prepping them, is we'll go ahead and solder to each one of these, and then the wires can simply bend back inside the housing, which will give us a little bit of extra length. And don't forget, you have this shielding here. Obviously it was long enough to go on that other one, so we don't need the full length, so I'll cut this in half. What I'll do is I'll show you just one wire that I'm soldering, and you can infer the remaining 7 wires. So let's clean the tip of the soldering iron. Excuse me, soldering station iron. So these are going to go straight down inside these connectors. So the goal is, you don't want to keep the heat on there too long. You just want to get hot enough to slip the wire in. So I'll start off with pin 1, and let's make sure we got the correct orientation. So this is pin 1, and according to our chart, pin 1 is white. We remained with the same color sequence. The only difference with this cable is the green wire is in fact pink. Your colors may vary. No guarantee that they'll be the same. So let's do that. Let's heat this up. And then we'll just place the wire straight in there. And then let it cool a little bit. Give it a little tug. Sound effects included. There we go. 1 wire done. Let's do the other 7. A small cautionary note: before you finish soldering the last, say, 3 wires, just give yourself a little space, and that way you can solder that center shield cable, and that will just give you a little extra room to work for without burning the outside of the wire. Okay. Alright, so just double checking, making sure the wires are secured and nothing came off. Don't know if I can twist these. Yeah, a little bit. Twist them a little bit and hopefully align this. Now the housing for the DIN connector, remember we've got a set screw, and that fits right here, so we can align that with the set screw. Well, we forgot one thing. Remember I said there was a piece of heat shrink that went around all these. I don't have any heat shrink that diameter, so I'll just take a small piece of that electrical tape, and we'll just go around the circumference of those wires. Oop, there it is. Got it now. Alright, that's secure. Okay. Now I'll just secure them with, use the bigger screwdriver. Yes, very good. Nice and snug. Alright. There you go. So there we have the finished products. Our new cable. Nice and snug on the DIN plug. Just one minor mishaps. A little sliver of plastic came off, but did not disturb the pin. That's fine. And the microphone head, nice and snug, and buttons all seem to be working. Now, let's test it on the radio.